Don in London, hello, November 18th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or being in recovery one day at a time. I'm in a one-day programme, if you like, and 35-year drinker, 35 years of wondering who I was, not really understanding life very well, or rather understanding half of life, a half-life. It's okay to be happy, it's okay to be joyful, but is it okay to be unhappy or not happy? I think I learned, and this is me thinking, I think I learned how to make life work and be what I thought I ought to be, rather than follow maybe some of my interests. So sometimes we get good at things which are useless to us inside. They don't make us feel better. And that was me with my career, and to mediate my career and also relationships and other stuff, I used to drink a lot because that's what I learned. I learned how to drink. So these days I'm learning on a daily basis what it's like not to drink, and the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, has been part of my story of recovery, simply to live in the day and meet life as it is, not trying to make it my way. So what is this transformation about? Well, from being an alcoholic to an alcoholic in recovery. Simply that. And here on these videos I share a bit about how AA helped me and helps me daily keep my feet on the ground when my head's in the clouds, when I'm daydreaming away. So what is AA? Well, I cannot speak for AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will and by choice in their venue. And being unique and authentic, they don't need promoting in any shape or form. So in fellowship what we see is what we get. Good days, bad days, shared experiences of life. So life on life's terms is not all a bed of roses. It's life as it is, and it can be very, very tough or just generally hard work. Life is difficult, as N. Scott Peck said. But a sober head makes it much more easy, in my case, to cope with reality. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm going to share the AA preamble off this little card, which really indicates what the fellowship does and is what you see is what you get. We don't promote, we can make you a sober person. We only become a sober person because we want to or need to. So AA, what is it? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, but we all have our own personal beliefs, and that's all right. We try not to bring them into the room to try and sell them to anybody. That's promoting recovery in a certain way. We share recovery as it is. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So my daily video, bit about me, bit about AA and what it can do and what it can't do. It can't make you sober. We have to do the hard work. And there are no fixes in life, not when it comes to our feelings, because the whole program is to balance our emotional and spiritual well-being on a daily basis, using the 12 steps, which are suggestions to help a person be open, honest and willing to change on a daily basis, and the 12 traditions, which are also suggestions about how the fellowship sticks together under unity, service and recovery. So although we are fully functional people when we're sober, we retain our beliefs and understandings about life. It's not an AA way of life. We go back to living a life we prefer without alcohol. Simple as that. And it's complicated because we got caught in a malady which we couldn't get out of on our own, and that was my experience. But there are other ways than AA. And I'm sure if you've found one, it's working for you. Anyway, I'm sharing about what works for me, and on here I read out the daily reflections. This is from this book. 12 steps and 12 traditions, so it covers one step and one tradition a month, January to December. So November and the 18th today. November is all about prayer meditation, or a formal way of clearing our minds so we can make some decisions and choices which are open to us. Not wishfulness, not trying to make it our way, but to deal with life as it is. So for November 18th it says here, a safety net. Occasionally we are seized with a rebellion so sickening that we simply won't pray. When these things happen, we should not think too ill of ourselves. We should simply resume prayer as soon as we can, doing what we know to be good for us. And that comes from the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And when we're seized with anger, resentments and stuff like that, our minds start to race into what is right for us rather than what is right generally. And you know, what I've learned is we pray and meditate all the time in an informal way. It's called this inner voice chattering to us, which is it's either self-will run riot, or it's understanding how we fit in the world. So self-will run riot can send me back into anger and resentment. And it then goes on to say, sometimes I scream, stomp my feet and turn my back on my higher power. Then my disease tells me that I'm a failure, and that if I stay angry I'll surely get drunk. In those moments of self-will, it's as if I've slipped over a cliff and I'm hanging by one hand. The above passage is my safety net, in that it urges me to try some new behaviour, new attitude, new behaviour, such as being kind and patient with myself, forgive myself for getting angry, because we all get angry, and resentful. It assures me that my higher power will wait until I am willing once again to risk letting go, to land in the net, and to pray. And for me, as somebody who can be an agnostic, an atheist, or a God believer, depending on my life experiences, sometimes I think there is a God, and then sometimes I think there isn't. But what is there is a conscience which can operate to good conscience, and that's my channel. So when I cut my good conscience off, I'm in trouble. If God works through people, as many people say, wisdom, truth, love and wisdom comes from others. So I don't have a problem with prayer, meditation and sharing my story if it's angry and resentful. It gets me away from shame and guilt. And shame and guilt will get me back into the trap of isolating and thinking the world is against me, when in fact nothing is against me except me and my inability to fit with what is happening. So these days I prefer to fit with what is happening and let life happen and be a part of it and be free to make choices which are open to me in reality. Freedom of choice in reality doesn't mean I'm going to get my own way. It means I understand what is possible and what is not possible. And the serenity prayer to God of good conscience helps me daily, anytime, about can and cannot do. So to God of good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is for me just for today. DonInLondon, hello. November the 18th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour and living life, so life works. So my addictive substance in the past, and would be again if I were to try and go out there and control it, was alcohol, is alcohol. My behaviour could have been anything. To take the edge off, to fill the gap, to collect, to try and love and be part of. And the obsession of being included and then not quite sure how to be included drove me bonkers, and that insanity, if you like, led to more drinking, to take the pain away, to feel okay, to not even know, to be oblivious to my situation. And it was weird and odd that alcohol, work, relationships, anything, just to make it look right and try and feel right, when in fact I never felt right, or quite right, for long periods of time. There were joy moments, of course, and joyous relationships, but they never seemed to last, and I guess that was because I didn't know how to live life too well, because drink was always in the background and always influencing me in what I did, socially or antisocially, in an isolated, excluded way. So what's helped me get into sobriety? Well, family, friends, community, professionals kept me alive long enough to get a moment of clarity, and that moment of clarity was I cannot do it on my own. Once I got to the addicted stage of alcohol and cross-addicting into behaviour, I couldn't get out of it on my own. And what helped me most was family, community, professionals, and then becoming part of a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't speak for AA because it's full of unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves. And anonymity means that some people share anonymously in meetings, and they keep it that way, and others, like me, share how experience, strength and hope helps keep me sober a day at a time. And we choose. It's a choice, personal choice of how we live life soberly, and that's the gift, to live with our choices today. So I have to say I'm an absolute fan of AA. It's done something which I couldn't do, got me included back in the game of life, or back in life. Sometimes game, maybe, I don't know. So back in life, and the fellowship has a statement of intent which I share here, and some of the readings. And the statement of intent, or the AA preamble, goes like this, and it says, Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And what more can a fellowship be about? Well, it doesn't need to be any more than that. It's about sobriety, and once we've got back to being sober, life works again, from problem to solution. But we are forgetful people, and that applies to everybody on the planet. And if we don't go back for some reassurance and some more wisdom learned as we go along, and sharing experience, strength and hope, we are very forgetful, and we can go back into the problem rather than being in the solution. So I don't want to be in an ocean of alcohol. I much prefer to be in the lifeboat with my life preserver on, which is with fellowship, and that works for me. And I went to a fellowship meeting last night, and it was blinking brilliant. Somebody I knew did the chair, and that's the bit at the beginning where somebody shares their story as it is today for about 10 minutes. And then we will get the chance to share back. And the gift is that when we get new people every time doing this, and even if we hear the same person again, their story's changed in some way or other since the last time, even if it's only a few days. And we connect with that story, and we connect, and it brings up memories of how it was for us, how it is today, and how it can be. And that is it. It's a sort of self-healing through choices process, but it requires other people to be a part of it. So we are not alone, and that was the greatest gift I learned, not to be alone anymore, isolated, excluded, and feeling unloved by myself mainly, which turned into self-hatred, self-obsession, and oblivion-seeking through alcohol or whatever it could be. So, the daily readings from the Daily Reflections, this book, which I use here, or utilise here, 12 steps of action for the individual in the fellowship on a daily basis, whichever is appropriate. And in this book, it covers one of the 12 steps every month. So, step 11, November, all about prayer and meditation. And for today, it says November 18th, a safety net. Occasionally we are seized with rebellion, so sickening we simply won't pray. When these things happen, we should not think too ill of ourselves. We should simply resume prayer as soon as we can, doing what we know to be good for us. And what I've learned is that prayer and meditation doesn't depend on whether you believe in God or not. Prayer and meditation brings us to a place of understanding our possibilities in life and how we are a part of something bigger, and it's not all about me. So it goes on to say, sometimes I scream, stomp my feet and turn my back on my higher power. Then my disease tells me that I'm a failure, that if I stay angry I'll surely get drunk. In those moments of self-will, it's as if I've slipped over a cliff and I'm hanging by one hand. The above passage is my safety net, in that it urges me to try some new behaviour, such as being kind and patient with myself, which means we can also be kind and patient with other people. It assures me that my higher power will wait until I am willing once again to risk letting go, to land in the net, in the fellowship for me, and to pray. And when I think about all of those things, prayer and meditation, all the time I was drinking, all I was meditating on was the next drink, or another occasion where I could drink, or to go find some isolation so nobody would know just how much I was drinking. And as Bill sees it, this one, page 261, as many pages as a day as you require. Fearless and searching, page 261. My self-analysis has frequently been faulty. Sometimes I fail to share my defects with the right people. That's my, I suppose, defects is doing too much of the wrong thing. Fear, brave-facing, and ego for me. I've confessed their defects rather than my own, and still at other times my confession of defects has been more in the nature of loud complaints about my circumstances and my problems. When AA suggests a fearless moral inventory of my assets and liabilities, it must seem to every newcomer that more is being asked of him than he can do. Every time he tries to look within himself, pride says, "You need not pass this way," and fear says, "You dare not look." But pride and fear of this sort turn out to be bogeymen, nothing else. Once we have a complete willingness to take the inventory and exert ourselves to do the job thoroughly, a wonderful light falls upon this foggy scene. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born, and the sense of relief at finally facing ourselves is indescribable. In other words, what we find out is the absolute truth of where our defects of character take us. That's our fear, our brave-facing, and ego, which is often about showing up and looking right rather than feeling right. And the other side of that, the other side of defects, if you like, or too much of doing something, is the other side of faith, courage, and confidence, where my shortcomings are. So if I don't do enough to improve my faith, my courage, my confidence, no matter what my belief system might be, I'm probably undermining myself and then undermining my life. So at the end of all of this, what helps me on a daily basis really is that serenity prayer, which is around acceptance of can do, can't do, to God or good conscience or whatever it is, of your understanding, not mine. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is simply for today.